Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Third Culture Convos podcast. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I am joined by Rashid. Our regular host, Wasim, has either been abducted by the aliens or he is very distraught at the news coming out of his home of Canada, which is that the Prime Minister has announced a divorce with his wife, Sophie. Rashid, any reactions? Flash reaction?
My first reaction was I wasn't surprised necessarily. I just feel like anytime I would see them on camera together, it just seemed like they were just two completely different people. Maybe at this point they'd become very different people than how they were when they first got married. Because she seems to be she seems to have more personality. She seems to have more character. And I guess Justin at one point had that because he was a teacher and a drama teacher, and he did various things that would have involved some kind of character. Um, but I just feel like in that type of relationship, in that role, that the type of role that the prime minister would have, it can really take a big strain on a relationship. We saw it with Justin's parents. I'm not, I was old enough, but not old enough to know what was going on, but still, it's still a narrative that exists within Canadian history and Canadian politics. Um, but yeah, is it, and it, I was watching some news channels from around the world and it was breaking news all over the place. And today, I don't think it means much anymore, but yeah, it's not that big a deal. Like I know some people might be all sad and whatever, but it's not like, the end of the world for a lot of people. And I honestly think that it's been something that's been coming for a while and they were just waiting for the right time to announce it. But I think even before the announcement, I think this is something that had been decided upon quite some time ago, and they were waiting for the right time to announce it to the public. But I think they dealt with it personally for some time already, because it says it in Justin's in his statement that it was a series of difficult and tough conversations, that type of stuff. A part of it is at what point, how long do you tough it out for? Because you discuss, like, so they have kids, they have three kids. Um, I think it might have been one of those situations for some time they stayed together for the kids. And now it's gone to the point where the eldest is what, 14 or something like that, or 12. I can't remember exactly. And the youngest is, I think, 8 or 9. It's not a bad time to split at that point, I would say.
You don't think it's awkward that he's still in public life, that they didn't wait until after? You don't think that's the only I agree. I think it's natural. I do as a citizen I would be concerned that I think if you're talking about mental health, it's very difficult to be the prime minister and be undergoing these kind of things. I would want my prime minister to be at their prime.
We could also go back to Clinton. If Clinton is an example of screwing around in the background, but still being able to hold office and run his government for the most part. And then Trump is an example of a complete mess and a train wreck. But according to what his values were, he still ran the administration quite well according to his values. These type of things change based on the individual. But yeah, I don't see that as, obviously Justin's parents' relationship was so public just because his mother, God bless, rest both of their souls, just because his mother was a very eccentric person. And there's all those rumors around about who his father really is and all that kind of stuff. But I think a part of it is that I think COVID, I think COVID really destroyed another relationship because it's been a thing where COVID has consistently destroyed relationships and people's mental health and all that kind of stuff. And I think a part of it could be that she probably was seeing a lot of things that Justin was deciding related to COVID during COVID. And I think maybe she realized he's a complete jackass. And I just don't want to be married to this guy anymore because it just seemed like it's a train wreck in Canada,
It,
politically speaking. So
it's a weird one because you would have thought 18 years ago or whenever they got together that he was a simple teacher. Politics was always going to be there. At some point, there was a political calling, and you, as the bride, know what you're getting into when you're into these political families. When you marry into political families, they got everything they ever wanted in terms of. I'm pretty sure they got married with exactly this plan of, yo, we're gonna have 3 kids. We'll be in office. We're gonna be a dynasty, and it's just interesting for me as on the outside, complete outside right now that um it's almost a monkey's paw. You got everything, but you also ended up with nothing.
so the thing is that with Trudeau, with JT, I don't, from what I recall, when he ended up going into politics, it seemed like he was pushed into it. I don't think it was a part of his plan because at the time, the political landscape in Canada was a bit eh, and they're like, we need a name. And they're like, oh, let's use Pierre's son. Let's see how this goes. And next thing you know, it's 8 years later and people are like, what the hell happened? How did this happen? So I think you're right in the sense that it would always be in the background. There's a possibility of it happening, but I don't think it was a real plan for him.
Maybe not, but I think too often I've heard this story. The person wasn't that interested, but they were pushed into it. Like it's it's a pattern that, like, oh, they weren't interested, but because they had the name, they leveraged it or someone pushed them into it. I don't believe that. I think at some point you do have to be like, yeah, this is the family business. Like politics and running the government is our family business. Because at some point you're going to use that. I just don't. Even your Prince Harry up to now, even though he doesn't want to be called, he just wants to be called Harry. He still, his only connection is based off that lineage. So I'm just saying, for me, I've heard this here often with the political errors. They will say, "Oh no, we were forced into it, or I wanted to do acting, but I was forced to do double acting politics." Uh, and
Acting.
I've heard that origin story a little too often to believe it. Do you know what I mean? It becomes so generic
Yeah.
that it's very difficult to believe in that story that, oh yeah, he was so reluctant and he didn't want to, we were forced into it.
Did you see that meme? And I I don't know if it's real. It might be a fake account, but like it was on Instagram. And so it's Sophie Gregoire and people are already sliding into her DMs. And the stupid one is like, hey, big head or some stupid shit like that. I'm like, seriously, man, I'll tell you this much. So I would say in a sense that Justin married his mother in the sense of Sophie having a character and she's eccentric within her own right. She just never seemed to like, when I see videos of her and like they're on state visits, for example, and like Justin branches off with the president or the prime minister, and then Sophie branches off with the first lady or whatever it is. And she looks comfortable, but at the same time, she may not necessarily want to be there in the sense that like she's doing what she has to do. And then there's another video where I saw they kept on rolling it on the TV like over and over again on the newsreel when they show the clips over and over again of people. And Justin's there holding some infant and she's sitting beside him. But just the way she's looking at the baby, you can tell she's a good mother. So in that sense, I think obviously I guess they're probably gonna do split custody. I don't know, but you can assume that she's gonna really take on that role of being like not necessarily a single mother, but like the professional mother type of thing.
Active,
I don't know what she's gonna
proactive,
continue doing.
active. Yo.
Yeah.
Well, over in Miami, you wanted to talk about a certain individual called Lionel Messi. He's been
Yeah.
making waves. He's been scoring goals. Because we've talked, I just want to give some context to viewers or listeners. We've talked about the impact of the Saudi League a couple of times, but we didn't talk about the move to Messi's move to Miami, which he had an option to go to Saudi Arabia. And after we recorded our previous Pro League episodes, I thought about him that he made himself, he chose America over football in the sense that he became relevant in America. Tom Brady, LeBron James are all over watching his games, but he's irrelevant to the sport of football. Had he gone to Saudi Arabia, he would have been right in the thick of it in terms of both optics and in terms of talent. What do you say and what do you want to say about Messi in Miami? We've had 3 games. He scored a bunch. He scored 5 goals already and
Yeah.
3 assists or something. He's doing really well right now. And
It's not only he's scored a whole bunch of goals, but like he's ripping people apart. Like it's he's basically playing against a bunch of peewee kids. Like it's ridiculous how much better he is compared to everyone else in the MLS as a whole. He's miles and miles ahead of these players. So yeah, him choosing to go to Miami, over Saudi. Yeah, basically, it's basically being a big fish in a small pond, essentially. All eyes are on him. But at the same time, he can handle that kind of pressure. But at the same time, I don't see it as pressure because, again, he can score at will against any one of these goalkeepers in the MLS. He can take any defender. There's not one defender in the MLS that can contain him. And we saw for so many years that there's only, a few like one-on-one battles when he was playing in Europe in his heyday. He fell off a bit with Paris, but that was a weird situation. He shouldn't have gone there in the first place, in my opinion, but whatever. There's still even a few players that probably could have handled him one-on-one when he was playing in Europe at this anyway. So it's whatever. It's just normal for Messi to eat people up with his left foot every damn time. Everyone knowing it's going to come and it's going to happen, but you still can't stop him. But yeah, no. So if he did go to Saudi instead, the payday would have been way more than I don't know what he's getting with the MLS contract. I have no idea. I haven't looked at the numbers, but do you know what the numbers are?
he's getting Scrooge. He's getting money. He's getting a lot of cash money. He's also gotten some equity ownership in the club, I believe. And it's very close. And it's the home. Miami is home to Latin America and South America. So there is a branding or like geographical reasoning behind why he's picked Miami. Like when I've flouted my like he should have gone to Saudi, people have said, "Yeah, you're right," but he wants to build his brand within his base and Miami is the headquarter
Yep.
of his base. And he's gotten ownership. He's got some kind of Apple is involved as well. Like he's talking to there's been 3 4 big companies that have promised him of ambassadorship or PR promotion. You're the main man kind of thing, like Shaq is to the general insurance. You're gonna be there's high profile examples. I don't know why Shaq and General Insurance was the one that came to mind, but Chris Paul or Aaron Rodgers and State Farm, whatever, like athlete endorsement and athlete. So there are business reasons and branding and sort of marketing reasons for him to go there. And there was videos of him shopping at a grocery store. He was at the self-service checkout and he's just he's beeping his bananas and paying them the thing and he's just living average American life. And that's what people were saying that's what he wanted was to be back to Earth as opposed to up there in the stratosphere. And if he had gone to Saudi, he would have been Yani owning the stratosphere, right?
If he went to Saudi, he would trump everyone that's gone there. Despite all the names that have gone to the Saudi league, it basically would have turned into Messi and Co. So I can understand that. And when it comes to, okay, so fine, we know like the MENA region in general, the Middle East, North African region, generally speaking, has its endorsements. It has its businesses that signs famous people and athletes and figures to endorsement deals, but it's nothing compared to what the United States does. I can understand that as well, that aspect of it, where he's basically finishing his time playing football in a relatively easy environment in terms of competition. Miami also is a place where people don't really bother people in person. They, unless you're a college player, a college football player, especially. But generally speaking, when it comes to the professional aspect of sports and professional leagues, they just leave people alone. They don't harass people on the street. So I can understand that as well. Um, but if we're also going to talk about the aspect of the business aspect, the business side of things, I can understand that as well in terms of his decision to go to Miami, because whatever these ambassadorship type of endorsements, whatever it is, this is long-term stuff as well. He's made so much money. He'll make money now as a player, but then the endorsements, it's like setting up something for the future. I'm going to assume there's some kind of business that's a personal business that he has either started or going to be starting up at some point. But I can see how Miami would be the starting point for that. Like, it's part of the reason why LeBron went to LA is because of his businesses.
Yeah.
So there's an example right there, as players in the United States doing that kind of thing.
And he does have a ambassadorship deal, branding deal with Saudi 2030, by the way. He is still involved in that project
Yeah. Okay.
called Saudi Arabia going to 2030. He is involved like the Beckham for Qatar. If Saudi ever bid for the World Cup, he would be their man to sell it to the outside world and whatnot. So he does have a foothold or a foot in that market, but he chose to go to the US. And the US has embraced him as much as they could. I don't know if they like if there's any more they could really have done to take out the red carpet for him. Like they got out Tom Brady, LeBron James, front page news, but it's almost I can totally see the Pele thing where it was big news in the New York Times for the one day, and ever since then you've never heard of soccer ever again. You know what I mean?
It's definitely gonna die off. And you know what? The thing that annoys me about the situation is they watch the highlights on ESPN and all this stuff, and and they're going crazy over the goals that he scored and what he's done. I'm like, it. He can do this in his sleep. This is training ground stuff that he's doing for him, for his caliber as a player. I don't find it to be that impressive at all. If he were to go to somewhere like England, for example, where it's notoriously a tough, hard-nosed, brutal type of defensive play for a lot of players, a lot of teams just they go out there for the purpose of professional tackles. I'd be more impressed. But it's the MLS. Like it's him. It's basically him doing this against a third division team in England or Italy or Spain or wherever. Like it's not that impressive to me in terms of what he's doing against that competition. I'm not saying you can't deny Messi's talent, but just who he's doing it against, whatever, big deal.
So then what do you think? If he's doing this, he might as well have signed with the Saudi league, or it's the same thing, or it's better that he did the US, or what like what in retrospect now, what are you saying? What should Messi have done? Or you're saying he should have signed for an English team
If
and got double
Messi, it's
promoted
so
for half the
basically
price.
if he, the problem with for Messi was that he didn't have that many more options. So Barcelona was all about we want to resign him, and La Liga's like, dude, y'all get no that. No, you guys are still under restrictions for signings and stuff. You're not bringing him back. There's no way in hell you can pay for him. He's not going to stay in France. He's not going to go to Italy. No one can pay for him in Italy. And why would you go to Italy if you're Messi? It's just It's become ridiculous in Italy. England, I don't think it was ever on his radar because I don't think he ever wanted to play in a league that was as physical as that. Why would you do, and especially at his time in his career, why would you do that? You're just signing yourself up for punishment. There's no point in doing that. So in the end, yeah, and unless the Saudi thing never happened, his only option was going to be MLS because he's not going to go back to Argentina. Why would you do that as well? There's no point unless you want to go back for community service type of things and not who's going to pay him in Argentina. So the Saudi thing became a good option because of the fact that it just came out of nowhere all of a sudden. It's like, oh, all this money. Now, so he's living, it seems like a relatively simple American life. Like he seems to be living a relatively middle-class American life without the middle-class money, obviously. But just in terms of actions and what he does, he goes gets groceries, goes home. Yeah, like suburban lifestyle. Great. It's fantastic. If he went to Saudi, I can't imagine the type of luxury these players are going to be living in Saudi. Like it's going to be, how many servants do you need for your house? Like it basically is essentially, how many more do we need to ship over from Sri Lanka and the Philippines, basically? So, yeah, I mean, if he'd still be doing the same type of things in the Saudi league, but the competition would have been stiffer because of the amount of players that are going there that are still high quality players.
So we're going to go from the top of the pops, Lionel Messi, to the bottom of the charts. There was a track and field competition recently, and Somalia sent over a very interesting runner. If you listeners have not seen the video, please watch the video because only when you see it will it do justice. Because from the get-go, she has no chance. Not even from the gunshot, like from when they take the markers, just physically looking at her, there's a world of difference. I'm no athlete myself. I'm ready to, which is why I'm not representing anyone or anything in any uniform. But this was, for me, I'm very interested because Pakistan and Somalia are often compared to each other. And this was an act that I could totally see Pakistanis doing. So basically, for the viewers, what happened was the chief selector of the track and field in Somalia, whoever is running the Somalian track and field committee, decided to choose a friend or somebody they know, an acquaintance or somebody they know, and sent them off to this international event. And they clocked in the worst record time, the worst time ever recorded in that 100-meter event. And physically, everything about this video is just brutal, really bad for the athlete. Because I don't think she knew what she was getting into. She thought it was just like friends running or something. I don't know what they were thinking. Rashid, you've seen the video. What are your thoughts?
I feel so bad for her. It's so bloody embarrassing. This poor child, she's 20-year-old. Yeah, we're going to ship you off to China for this event. And you have to go and run. And again, so the next topic, it's related, and I am not trying to fat shame at all. This is not what I'm doing. Okay. It's not what I'm saying, but there is a visible difference in terms of body type compared to the runners that she was competing against and this individual. It's just,
it wasn't even like
what makes you think?
Have you ever seen a track and field? Like, you've seen the IHOP. I don't know if you've ever seen the track and field, like, circle. Like, she didn't even look the part.
It basically was
the fattest person in Somalia. I'm sorry, but.
Oh my God. Oh, geez. This is bad. It's so bad, but it's like those memes where, when you lie on your resume, when you lie in your job application, what made them think it was a good idea?
It's just,
why would you do that?
embarrassing. It's just, as a Pakistani, I have secondhand cringe because I have been in that position where our country has done something similar, and it's just so embarrassing. And it's like the nepotism and the corruption, it's so obvious. And this is on a world event. I
Well,
just feel,
Somalia hasn't had a working government for what, over 2 decades now, at least?
yeah, yeah. And in fact, the news out of Africa, while we're on the subject, is that Niger has lost its government and the army has taken control of
Yep.
the country of Niger, and they're like meeting Wagner militants and stuff. It's weird what's happening. And this is a topic for another day. Yeah, this was in the news. Like, this was headline: Wagner militia meets the Niger army. This is a topic for another day, but I do like, we do need to, and everybody, all of us need to discuss failed states and how this world we're living in is continually, the failed states are piling up. Sudan in front of us has fragmented. My country of Pakistan
Mhm.
fragmented in 1971, where Bangladesh was created. And Niger has just is a failed state. Once the military takes over, it's, what else do you call it? And this trend of failed states is recurring more and more. I feel Pakistan is close to it, and South Africa, the opposition announced they were like, "Yo, we're close. We are close to being a failed state." And so this is a topic I'd like to have for another day, but like, we do need to talk about, like, where is the UN and all of these bodies and diplomats and ambassadors, and they're all living very fancy lifestyles, but they don't, what are they doing in front of them? These places are failing.
Wasn't there was another coup, what, 8 months ago? Was it Burkina Faso?
Very possible, yes. I think so. There was something in the news about
Think
them. And just before that, Burkina Faso, like 2, 3 months before that, was military coup of Myanmar.
Oh, I missed that altogether.
There's a famous video where this girl is doing TikTok exercise videos, and behind her, a tank is entering parliament because that's literally the coup is about to happen. And she's just like dancing and doing her
Oh,
exercise,
man.
and she has no idea. And there's like a coup happening literally in front behind her.
Jeez.
And that video is sort of
Wow.
the perfect thing of our society. We're busy dancing and think the This Is America video. It's basically a real version of This Is America.
Yep. Yeah, to the I don't even know her name, poor Somali runner. Good on you for trying. How many I mean, that's pretty, like, not many people can say that they ran in a 100-meter dash. Like, in in an actual competition, like, in an actual sanctioned competition that you can potentially make the Olympics through. Who knows? Maybe it's gonna spark something new in her. Maybe it's going to spur some kind of, like, fitness type of goal for her, and she'll start working out, and I don't know. I'm trying to find
Insh-
some kind of positive for her. It was a paid
Inshallah,
trip.
inshallah, I wish that was the case. But what I've seen from my experience is generally these people are the recipient. We may say, oh, poor this, poor that, but they do know that they are being given favor. Somewhere deep down inside them, they
Yeah.
know that they didn't earn it. And I don't know, because what I've seen, you would think people would check their privilege and understand their privilege and respect what they've been given and be even more grateful. But often, especially with Muslims, the richer they are, the less grounded they become. And so I'm just speaking in terms of her. She's probably the child of an elite person in Somalia. This person, and they're all one gang, they're called the establishment. And what I've seen of these elite kids, they don't understand the privilege they've been given. In fact, they think it's a birthright, and they often become even worse because of it. I hope you're right, inshallah. I pray, but I don't
I
know.
just want to I just want to know what the background is in terms of why they had to select someone. Don't they have their heats and their qualifications? I don't know. And if they don't, why do they need to send someone to the competition in the first place? Like there's a lot of information in the background that I just don't know and understand. I don't know if anyone knows apart from those who are involved in the situation, but it just seems like a stupid thing to do. Why would you? It's unnecessary. How many track events have you seen Somalia compete in?
Stupidity, the lack of transparency, and the lack of accountability are all hallmarks of the third world. So you're right. I mean, I blame the administrator far more than the runner. Please understand that it's my thing. My
Oh,
concern is
absolutely.
the system.
Absolutely.
Is that like how the hell did this person even filter through? Don't you have what you're saying? Heats and coaches and everything. No offense to this person, and we can segue into the next story in other news based on this, but visually, optically, look at the runner. She don't look like a runner, man. Like she don't look like a runner. She ran last time she ran was 10, 15 years ago. She don't look like a runner. That's all. At least send someone who
Oh
looks
my
the part.
god.
And
Wow.
now we can move on to our last
At
segment.
least they could have poached a Kenyan runner. I'm just
Seriously, anything. Like, this is no runner
Ugh.
is better than that runner. I'm sorry to say. In this case, uh,
Yes. Yeah. Just take your licks and don't send someone. What do you okay, sorry, next.
save your money, save your budget. You guys need it. But that's where the corruption kicks in. It's a free foreign trip for these people. There's a
Exactly.
psyche angle that we're not necessarily a third world psychological angle that's not necessarily in play. We haven't kept in play necessarily. Lizzo
Mm.
is apparently someone you and I should care about. She's apparently like super famous these days. You and I would call her the Beyonce of today, I guess. Like she's like very famous, Taylor Swift style.
I wouldn't.
Everybody knows her, everybody loves her. She she could easily slot in for that Somali runner, optically speaking. What I mean to say is high calorie individual or she has a high BMI. These days, you can't say the word FAT. So we're gonna
Mhm.
avoid that. I'm gonna try and avoid that word, especially in context with this like crowd. She's again like larger than life and maybe larger than most pant sizes. And that's her claim to fame is that she's larger and she's very body positive. She's very about, hey, you girls, if you're larger too, you should be okay with yourself. And this is how God made you, and you're perfect. And in fact, maybe even look to level up and get healthier in terms of bigger. You don't need to worry about anything in terms of your weight. Be happy you're fat and be grateful for it, or obese or overweight, whatever the word is these days. I don't know. I'm too confused. Anyways, Lizzo is a singer who's large. She has been accused of fat shaming and sexually harassing her dancers, her backup dancers. Three of her backup dancers have come out and said, hey, this person. And there was another director of a show that came out and said, I worked with Lizzo for 10 days. I couldn't take it anymore. Her attitude, the way she talked to these people was absolutely like they've said. I couldn't take it. And so I quit after 10 days. Rashid, celebrity worship, is it gone too crazy? Should we be allowed to say fat or no? Like fat is khalas, it's a gone with the dough kind of thing. And the hypocrisy of it all.
Uh,
Celebrity, rich people, fat people, hypocrisy. There's a lot of intersectionality in this one.
what was the first one?
I don't even remember how. Take your pick. You can just start with any of the list.
I think you said celebrity shaming.
Celebrity worship.
or worship.
Because these people are first
Celebrity
put on the
worship, sorry.
pedestal. They have a message, one message that, hey, we're positive about our image. And then suddenly, because of that one message, they're put into a position where they can now abuse. And yeah, it was celebrity worship.
With Lizzo, Lizzo was like, she was a part of that. Yeah, so there's Lizzo, and then there's the plus size model, Ashley Graham. Like, they're both in conjunction with body positivity and embracing more of the plus size woman, these type of things, where for a long time, the most plus size woman was Beyonce. Like, she was the largest one in a sense, where she was not a walking stick compared to others. And she had curves and all, and you can, in these type of things. So she was like considered a larger woman, and and a lot of people love that body type. And I'm not going to lie, I like that better as well. But then it got to the point now where we're getting to the plus size of things, where now that's Lizzo and Ashley Graham. And it's, it's another situation where the media was ready for the next new image that they are willing to accept and promote, right? So Lizzo probably for a long time was told, you're never going to make it. You're not going to make it in showbiz. You're too big. And then it happens because she became the poster child for it, because her first hit single and all that kind of stuff. I don't think she's that great, to be honest with you. But is she worthy of the worship? She played that 200-year-old flute. That was great. In terms of using the word fat, I can understand how it's hurtful to people. I get it. I understand. And they've tried to come up with other words that are acceptable. So plus size, for example, is like the most acceptable, as far as I understand it to be, the most acceptable term that can be used. But I just want to, like, when you read the accusations and what she allegedly has done and what she's allegedly said to some of the girls that are larger in her dance troupe. And the other thing too, it's twofold, because the other thing too is that the girls that were African American were like, we were more scrutinized than anyone else. And I'm like, wait a second, what's going on here? You are basically doing what people probably were doing to your entire life, to these people that are your dancers, that are a part of your performance. Like, I'd throw the question to you now. Is it a complete situation where everything's gone to her head completely?
I'm glad you brought up that, like, specifically the black dancers, the African American dancers were like, yo, she was extra tough on us. And that's been my history with the colored people in general. We're the first ones to bring ourselves down. That's just been my thing.
Tough love?
It's not even love, it's just tough hatred. It's jealousy, it's hatred, I don't even it's not tough love. There's a difference between love, like tough love, and just there's a boundary there. There's a line that you cross at points, especially when it's two of them or three of them are like, yo, like all of us. It's just the only difference between us three and those five is the color of our skin, and it's just disappointing that it's the self hatred is the part that's really disappointing. It's not the hatred, that's very natural. I've said this before. I think hate is a very natural emotion, perhaps the most natural, especially with the internet. In terms of, yes, I think it's a two-way street. I think one, people, the average consumer has put these celebrities way too high, and these celebrities, they're also very cunning and manipulative, where if they see that they're being put on a pedestal of 1 foot, they will quickly demand the pedestal of 10 feet.
Hmm.
Because they know that's how divas are supposed to behave. And it's weird. We need more of those Keanu Reeves type people. But that, even he was molded into that based off of life experiences and the shittiness of life. I don't necessarily know if these people, I don't know if a shitty feeling is a shitty life. These are two different things. And she might have leveraged a shitty feeling as opposed to living a shitty life. Does that make sense?
No, I know. Because I don't know. I honestly don't know much about her background in terms of where she came from and what she came from and all that kind of stuff. But like yeah, she became the poster child of the plus size type of body. But there's really no one else in the music industry that has followed her after that. So she still is that person. And when you have Beyonce mentioning you as one of the queens of African American celebrities and all that kind of stuff, which she didn't recently after this whole thing. Yeah, this persona develops naturally. Like that's why I'm not surprised that something like this came out because I'm not gonna lie, and I don't want to be like I don't want to. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. The parts. There are times when I've seen her do stuff and just interviews I've seen her give, and just the way she would act around people. I always felt in the background she was a piece of shit. I'm not gonna lie.
That's like those vibes I get from Ellen. Based like that, like the way
Absolutely, and it's apparently been confirmed or not. I
and
don't know.
like the there's plenty of hearsay around Ellen to confirm that she's not, this is all acting. This is all guys. The camera, the lights go on and they become a character. They play a character. It might be for 10 minutes of an interview, it might be 2 hours for a concert, but they're not really, this isn't
Mhm.
really them. And how the user consumer refuses to acknowledge this or accept this is beyond me. And how the actual person can keep up this facade for that long is also beyond me, which is why I say again, it's a two-way street.
But you know what? But they're the ones. They're the ones that survive the most in Hollywood because in Hollywood you have to learn how to have that thick skin off the camera because if you don't, you're going to be walked all over. So part of it is the nature of the beast in the sense that it's the reality in which they live, where they have to be assholes at times and then know when to flip on their character because knowing how to flip on their character is what's paying them. And then knowing how to keep yourself in a position to be able to get paid, you have to be an asshole.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I get what you're saying. It's the same. James Brown would make that argument. His backup band hated him. He was the hardest working man in showbiz, and they hated him because he was an absolute perfectionist and a like uncontrollable diva. There's a difference between a diva and an uncontrollable diva, and he's shouting and throwing instruments at you and shout like you made one mistake. And but then this guy is arguing, yo, this is my bread and butter. I'm not, this is the one thing I'm allowed to be an asshole with. The problem with her is the accusations themselves are so much more personal. And there's also the
Yeah.
women aspect of like, when I say one of us bringing ourselves down, it's speaking from any marginalized or minority possible. So if that's a colored person, if that's a black or African American person, if that's a woman, and the fact that she's bringing down other people who are exactly like her is so disappointing, or at least allegedly bringing other people like her down, especially like her, is really disappointing. And just the hypocrisy. Sell your records and don't do
Yeah.
the body positivity thing. I'm okay with that. It's when you start saying I'm okay with it, but then you start making fun of other people who work for you.
Yeah.
That's where there's a line that's been crossed, right?
Yeah. As you said, the hypocrisy, and you're basically completely contradicting your whole MO in your music.
Right.
Where, yeah, I think exactly at some point she needs to sit down and look in a mirror and be like, I effed up. Or she doesn't care. Maybe she doesn't care. I don't know. Or maybe she didn't feel like she was doing something wrong for whatever reason. Still haven't heard from her. We don't know what her side of the story is. So who knows? It could very well be something where it's all made up, but there's too many people for it to be made up. There's too many people involved. There's too many other people. There's too much other rumbling surrounding the story that kind of, I guess you can say, confirms the allegations, quote unquote, for it not to be true.
That was my feeling on it. That okay, I get one person, two accusations, but when it's a group and they're sitting united together, and then the director, who has nothing to gain from this, is also confirming that yeah, I left this work environment because she's toxic. There becomes too many smoke clouds
Yeah, yeah,
to
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Where there's smoke, there's fire.
yeah, yeah. With that, you guys let us know what you think. We've gone over a bunch of random events all over the
Mhm.
world. Third culture kids are like this, random, globalized, complex, complicated, all over the place, confusing, rambling sometimes, even like I'm doing right now. But we had Justin Trudeau divorced, Messi doing well in Miami, but not necessarily being optimized, Lizzo fat shaming people, and a fat person running a 100-meter race. I had to have that one at the end. I'm sorry. The Somali woman
Oh
again, I'm
man.
sorry. Like you were put in a bad position, but you also
Uh,
allowed yourself to be put in that position.
Hey, listen, you know what? I won't be surprised if there's a whole entourage with her as well. It was like, oh, we're going to China for a trip. Oh, can I come? Yeah, sure.
Family trip? No, government paid, no doubt.
We need
No
to
doubt.
we need to keep her occupied. Oh, there's this thing going on at some park. Do you want to go?
Olympic Park. Yeah, yeah. Let's check it out.
What do
Russia,
I have to
thank
wear this for? Just put it on. Go.
everybody like, share, subscribe, comment, check out our social media pages. Rashid, thank you for being here. We will see you all next week, inshallah. Take care. Peace, peace. Bye bye.
Bye, buddy.